Is it food? To the wolf, the European pond turtle is as exotic as it is to most modern Europeans. In the Dark Ages, this reptile was common across much of Europe, until the church decided it was a fish, to be eaten on fasting days. That was a death sentence as effective as the one pronounced over the wolf. Another exotic species and a rare spectacle. Great bustards have gathered for their courtship ritual. The males are practicing grand poses to impress the females. In the sidelines, the females wait for the show to begin and to make their choice. The males are huge and weigh up to 25 kilos. Before their great act, they need some refreshment. There seems to be no shortage of grey voles around the lek, the bustards' traditional meeting place. Some of the younger males are impatient and fly in early to stake their claims. That can cause friction in a very physical sense. In spring, the Puster Lakes serve as a stopover for millions of migrant birds. Some, like the lapwings, stay here to breed. The shallow salt lakes, faint echoes of an ancient sea, quickly warm up and become a living soup, swarming with myriads of tiny crustaceans. A welcome feeding place after 2,000 kilometers of strenuous flight. These avocets have just arrived from Africa. Almost 1/3 of Europe's avocets breed in the Puster. When the coast is clear, the pond turtles re-emerge. One last dip, and then the spring sun lures them on land. After spending the entire winter buried in the mud, this female now sets out to find a warm and safe place to bury her eggs. It may be a long and arduous journey. Undeterred by heat and storms, the pond turtles often march for weeks through grassland and dunes until they feel they have found a perfect nesting ground. During their wanderings through the desert, they hardly eat. Locals call the tumbleweed or prickly glasswort the devil's wheel because it's considered a bad omen, foreboding sandstorms. Only 50 years ago, the sands would often bury pasture land and cause great damage. The sand is our enemy, the Communist Party wrote on their red banners. We will fight it, and we will win that war. The 50s were a time of optimism in Hungary. People felt that anything was possible. Man, and not nature, was to dominate the world. The sands burying roads and cutting off villages. This was no longer to be tolerated. There are state programs to stabilize the dunes by planting bushes and trees. Irrigation canals were built, but man's impact, brutal as it was, has been far from permanent. The winner, in the end, seems to be nature. What has changed is the human attitude towards it. Today, this unique landscape is protected, and Hungarian scientists are trying to understand the life of the dunes.
In Hungary, we have Europe's last migrating dunes, yet we know very little about them. Carefully and with our bare hands, we stripped away some of the vegetation in order to study ecological relations between plants and insects.
The tiny inhabitants of the dunes appear as soon as the vegetation has been removed. Flashy spiders, grand bugs, or this colourful ground beetle. The ground beetle is a fast and deadly hunter. Even when temperatures soar to 70 degrees centigrade, which is hot enough to kill bacteria, it patrols the dunes, always on the lookout for a victim. When the sapphire blue butterflies visit the Puster's wildflowers, summer has begun. The sapphire blues live almost exclusively on the nectar of the milk veg. They also lay their eggs on this endemic plant, and their caterpillars depend on its leaves. The caterpillars attract ants because they secrete a sugary syrup. The ants build their sand nests right next to the plant.